My guest today is Ashwini Ponnppa. She and her partner got India's first badminton gold medal in Commonwealth Games and was the first Indian pair to win a medal in the World Championships. What's it with athletes from Coorg?
I don't know, I think sports in our blood.
Father in particular played for the country. How much he was involved in the early part of your training?
Being a sports person himself, he was very adamant. Warm-up is key. Wearing tracksuits was a key.
How do you manage conflict? And you've been in that space where you've played with doubles for most part of your career.
Conflict is a key word when you're playing doubles, and there comes a time when you have to part ways, and it's never nice and it's never easy.
I want to get back on the mental health side. I know that's one of your superpowers.
You've got to know if you've given your best shot, because there are a lot of players who would have played, quit, and then gotten back into the sport. Negativity kind of stems more negativity, you know. Sometimes coaches don't get that.
There are a few sports which are extremely dominant even today.
The Cricket Association's done a phenomenal job. Even women's cricket now is doing really well. I feel like our sport can be competing with the likes of Japan. But yeah, there's so much more that can be done.
So 18 years of playing the sport, have you ever thought of quitting?
Multiple times.
Hi, welcome to The Other Side. I'm your host, Dilip, an entrepreneur and an endurance athlete. In this podcast, we will explore the experiences of high-performing individuals while unpacking their mental and physical fitness routines that took them to where they are.
All right, Ashwini, thank you for taking time and sitting with me for having this conversation.
Thanks for having me here, Dilip.
Now, I'm excited to have this conversation and it's been a long time waiting. I want to get started. What's it with athletes from Coorg? They're aging and they're getting better. Why is that?
I don't know. I think we look up to each other.
Yeah?
I'm looking up to the other athletes, and I don't know. I think sports in our blood in a lot of ways. And anytime anyone looks at a Coorg, they kind of expect us to be good at sports. So it could be that.
Could be, because I spoke to Rohan Bopana, I spoke to Joshna, and now you, and there's a common pattern that you guys are aging gracefully and you're getting very fierceful at the court. So there is something which is working. Could be either Coorg or perhaps some supplements which are working for you. Probably will get out later. But let's go back to the younger days of Ashwini. You were born in a sporting family. Your father played hockey, played for the country. Your uncle played for the state in cricket. What made you get to badminton?
My parents. My parents are the reason why I'm here today. And of course, my dad played hockey. And the number one question is, why didn't I choose hockey? It's not like I didn't choose hockey. It was just that my parents put me into badminton as they saw that, okay, I had something special in badminton. I don't think they really expected much, but it was more to keep a very hyperactive kid occupied. And that's how it started.
What was the special thing? I read you, like you said, you were hyperactive and your mom realized that to conserve your energy, probably she would roll up paper balls and, throw it on you and you were hitting with a racket. So was that the special part?
I'm guessing that is, because I honestly do not remember that part of how it all started. But according to my mom, when she was expecting my brother, just to keep me busy and occupied, because like I said, apparently I was very hyperactive. So she ended up rolling paper balls and gave me a badminton racket, and apparently I was able to contact it quite well. So yeah, I think that, along with the fact that I enjoyed playing badminton in our community where I grew up, and that's how it started.
One common pattern which I've now seen both in Rohan, Joshna and a lot of athletes is that the parents were originally very passionate and they were playing sport. That naturally got the kids' inclination towards sport. Not necessarily the same sport what the parent was playing, but any sports. Do you think that has played or that seemed to be playing with a lot of athletes around you? Or there are outliers that they somehow figured out interest and they started playing sport?
I'd say the outliers are there, but for most of us, it's definitely the parents. In my case, for sure, it's my parents, and it's because of their hard work and their dedication that I'm here today. Because being a kid, you don't really have any responsibilities, and having both my parents working full-time 9-to-5 jobs, it wasn't easy on them to go to office, pick me up from school, take me for practice. So they've done a lot of work into getting me to a level where I could take on from there. But definitely my parents, and I would say for a lot of kids, it's their parents, because The parents are the ones who are going to be investing a lot of time and energy taking kids around from one place to the other, right? It's either that, it's either the sports or is it education, so they're taking them for tuition. So for me, it was sports and it was badminton.
Yeah, I want to double click on this, and the reason why I did that was because largely in the society we live today, parents or have a wish list that their kid should possibly be whatever sports personality, and that just goes on as a desire, and that's too much of a pressure on the kid. But most of the time, the kids are watching the parents. Whether they want to pick up a book, they have to see the parents reading a book. If they want to eat right, they have to see the parents eating right. Else, it's a very barbarian expectation that I might not be reading a book, but I want my kid to devour into book. But coming back to since you kept on saying that the parents did a lot of hard work, how much involved was your father in particular? Because he's been an athlete at a national level, he played for the country. How much he was involved in your sports or perhaps the early part of your training?
I would say it's both my parents. I wouldn't just say it's my dad, because in different aspects, it's been each of them putting in the time and effort to taking me to practice back and forth. But my dad's role basically was taking me for my early morning sessions, which started at 6 in the morning. So when I was in school, we would had to be at Kandirwa Stadium by 6 a.m. And then dad's job was taking me there, getting me back home. And then one thing he instilled in me was making sure I warmed up really well. Because being a sports person himself, he was very adamant. Warm-up is key. Wearing tracksuits was a key, because after a certain point, once I got to 15, 16, no one was wearing tracksuits back then. It's everyone would just go and get ready in shorts, and my dad would get really pissed off with that. He'd be like, make sure you're in your tracksuit, because that's how you're going to get warmed up. So dad played a huge role in terms of teaching me how to warm up, cool down, and the aspects of sport that involves getting ready and preparing. Neither mum or dad played badminton, so they didn't really get into the technical aspects of the game. But mum, on the other hand, made sure that I ate well, always made sure that food was top priority, made sure that breakfast was good. Because I remember when I was in school and I was fairly fast in terms of being an athlete and running, at least at the school level. And then everyone's like, okay, so what do you have for breakfast? And back in the day when oats wasn't even a big deal, I'm like, oh, I have oats and then I have ragi. And it's not like I liked it. Now I know that it's really good. But back then I just ate it because mom made sure that she gave us this big bowl filled with, just say, all your dry fruits, along with all the other homemade dishes like our otis, which I didn't like. A lot of the things that I didn't like when I was a kid, I like now. But yeah, mom made sure that nutrition, the mental side was taken care of by mom.
It's a common pattern when parents get involved in a child's early sporting career. There comes a time where they have to unplug and staying put more on the kid's career perhaps might not do good, maybe even get harm. And we have seen this instance in different personalities, like whether it's Tiger Woods or the Williams sisters and so many. But where does that line come when the parent realizes that it's about time for us to back off and perhaps put the child in guidance to an expert or a coach where they can do much better?
That's actually very tricky, because I think it's very personal to a lot of athletes. And like you said, the likes of Tiger Woods, the Williams sisters, for them, they've had their parents play a huge role into just getting them groomed to be the best in the world. Whereas when I started, it was more to keep me occupied in the sport and keep me busy. But then I think when your parents are investing so much of time and energy taking you from one place to the other, there comes a point where they also have expectations, because they're putting in so much of effort, taking their kid to training. They also want the results, right? So that was the same with my parents. There was this expectations, okay, Ashwini can do well, so why isn't she winning? Because under 10 is when you start competing, or when I started competing. And then I wasn't winning any of the state tournaments. So at that point in time, there's this big question mark as to why isn't Ashwini winning? And there was pressure. There was immense pressure. And I would say my personality is such that I'm not someone who does well with someone being really loud. I'm not someone who does well if the tone is pretty harsh. So it was a bit of a struggle. But like I said, my mom took it upon herself to make sure from the mental aspect of things, I was prepared and ready. And at a very young age, I actually started going. I mean, my mom tried sending me to a counselor, sending me to a psychologist. And the thing that clicked for me was actually going to an NLP trainer. And I think I was about 12 and a half, because at that point in time, my parents were very worried that I wasn't winning because I was close to the girl who was winning. And they thought that, okay, it's like a mental block. And I think the best thing that happened to me was going to Ashlesh, who's the NLP trainer whom I went to, because my overall experience as a badminton player changed from then. And I think even my parents' approach to like dealing with their child who's into badminton changed from then, because Ashlesh brought about a lot of enjoy yourself at playing, asked my parents to back off, not really be harsh, and then dealt with the coaches. And little by little, I found this area where I knew that, okay, if I wanted to play well, I really had to have a good time on court. I did well and moved well when I enjoyed myself. Because when you're young, and at least the kind of personality that I have, I didn't deal too well with pressure. I didn't deal too well with like, oh, why did you lose? That harsh question, and then like a whole load of things being said after that. And then with Ashlesh, the way my parents approached my game changed. And I wouldn't say that it's not like it's ever bothered them if I haven't done well. Even today, if I'm not doing well, it's like, okay, so what happened to the match? But it changed, and I think it eased a lot of burdens from both ends. For my parents dealing with me as a child who's pursuing badminton, and for me as a child who's just like wanting to go and express herself on court. And I found that balance thanks to Ashlesh.
Now, I want to get back on the mental health side. I know that's one of your superpowers, but in the past you have said that sports and academics should coexist in an athlete's life. Why do you think it should go parallel?
For sure, because I feel like academics takes you a long way, and you're taught a lot of different values when you go to school. You interact with a lot of kids. You're put through this different kind of uncomfortable situation. Sport, in a way, is fun for a lot of us. And of course, I would say if a child is training at a very young age and misses out on school, you kind of miss out on the whole socializing aspect and learning to deal with multiple people, different situations. And I would say when I was growing up, I was very lucky that I was at the Prakash Padukone Academy. And back then, the coaches were very strict. They're like, no matter what, all of you are going to school. So that meant from 6 to 7:30, I was training, and then go to school from 8:30 till about 2:30, finish, like skip the last session, last class, go for practice and repeat. And most of us managed, and it's not like I was a good student. I was like an average student, just about made it. But then a lot of the other badminton players quite a few of them, in fact, are very good students and have done really well. And that goes to show that you can do really well in both. But having said that, it also depends on the parents. For me, fortunately, I didn't have a lot of pressure from my parents saying, okay, you've got to excel in badminton and you've got to excel in studies. Or it wasn't like, only if you excel in studies will you be allowed to pursue badminton. For me, it was like, okay, just make sure that you do well, get through your exams. And badminton, of course, kind of became like the primary focus for me.
Regardless whether you're in tier 1 or a tier 4 city, sports to a large portion of society is still an extracurricular activity. It's not a primary activity, right? I mean, you get to play the 30-minute or 1 hour of sport as an incentive because you get to finish your homework. Back in the days, it was true for me. That's how I grew up, because if I finished my homework on time, or perhaps I scored well in my quarterly exams, I will probably get a 30-minute bonus of my playing time. How can we change that culture?
I don't know, because I feel like right now it's either you're purely into studies, from what I've seen at least, you're like fully into studies, no break, no time for anything else, or you're fully into badminton. Or like any sport, there's no that midway where you need to have both going hand in hand. And I felt
Is it hard?
What, having
To balance, to have a balance?
It depends on the parents again. It depends on what kind of parenting there is, because if the parents are very strict with their kid to do well in both, that's hard. That's a lot of stress, and it puts a lot of pressure on the child. And I would say any kid who's starting off in any sport, they've got to enjoy it first, because you're like, why would you put your child through so much of pressure? But if you look at a lot of the greats, their parents have put a lot of pressure on their kids to get them to that level. But unfortunately in sport, you just have one winner. Every parent could do the same thing that like Tiger Woods' dad did, but not everyone's going to get to that level. It's just, that's the truth, you know. So all you can do is make sure that your kid is into sport. They learn a lot. They learn discipline. They learn to be obedient, follow rules. At the same time, you also learn to break rules and you have fun. So I feel like it's a mix. You've got to have that balance. But I mean, everyone wants to be a champion. All of us strive to be champions. All of us strive to be the best. But unfortunately, not all of us can. But you learn a lot. You learn a lot through the sport. You learn a lot through like playing sports because you learn to deal with losses at a very young age, which is very difficult. It's not the easiest. And then you learn to pick yourself up, get back, and continue doing what you're doing. But yeah, I think I strayed away from what you said and what you asked. Sorry.
No, it makes sense. I mean, a lot of people who are watching this, perhaps listening to this, are also parents of young kids who might have an aspiration to play. And they don't know whether this would eventually lead them to either a professional career or any reasonable outcome. And there's a lot of self-doubt on the parent and the kids whether they should continue to do this. And therefore, they're always in this crossroad to make that choice whether they should go all into their academics or whether they should do partly on their sports. How do they weigh what is right or wrong? And I'm sure there's no right answer. I mean, everyone has their own playbook and they have to figure it out. But it always helps in some way when they look up to people like you and a lot of other accomplished athletes that they have all gone through the same confusion. And it's just those mental models, what might have applied to you and what might have applied to someone else. They could just play it down on a table and then figure out, okay, what might just apply on me? Because what might work for Ashwini or some other player might not necessarily apply for that kid in Bangalore or Delhi or wherever it could be, who is right now trying to figure it out, right? So I know I completely get where you're coming from. I want to jog back to the early sporting career of yours, 2001. But back then, when you're a 12-year-old kid, what are you setting up a goal when you're just getting into badminton few years that I'm going to win nationals? Is that a goal? How do you prepare yourself to get to that milestone to say that, okay, am I just going there to play and figure it out whether badminton is for me? Or you have that well-crafted goal that, no, I'm going to win the national championships?
So firstly, I won my first nationals in 2004 and I won it in the sub-junior girls category in doubles. By 2001, I'm guessing I might have reached the finals of the nationals in, again, doubles in the under 13 category. And I think at a very young age, you kind of realize that when you're competing and that's the environment that you are in, you realize that, okay, your first goal is to win the state championship. And making it onto the state team was a big deal because that means you're representing the state and then you go for nationals. And that's how my journey started because I got to be a part of the Karnataka state team, which is a very big deal. And in the under 13 nationals, having reached the finals was a big deal. And then after that, you realize that, okay, once you get to the state team, next target is to go and win a national medal, go and win the nationals. And then once you win at the nationals, you realize, okay, once you win at the nationals, you're supposed to be India's best, right? And then you get this opportunity to go and represent India internationally. But when I started off, it wasn't like I didn't have it in my mind that, oh, I want to one day represent India. That wasn't there. I have no clue why it wasn't there, but it just wasn't there. I don't know if I wasn't told about it or I wasn't aware of it, but growing up, it was just like, okay, state team, make the state team, get to the nationals, do well at the nationals. And it was after I won my first national title, which was in 2004 in the sub-junior girls category in doubles. That's when my parents were like, okay, badminton is like a good space for her to like put her full focus in. And around 2007, we got selected as part of the national team, the national camps for the Commonwealth Games 2010. And that was a big deal because the Commonwealth Games was going to be in India. And honestly, I didn't even know about the Commonwealth Games until my dad's colleague, who's a former hockey coach, came and told me, Ashwini, what's your goal? And I'm like, yeah, I want to be a national champion. And he's like, no, your goal's got to be to go and win the Commonwealth Games. That's going to be in India. And I was like, whoa, there's the Commonwealth Games. Again, I have no clue how and why I was so oblivious to things that were happening around me. But then that was when the seed was planted in my head that, okay, Commonwealth Games is a big deal and winning. And of course, things worked out in my favor, but not according to how I planned. But yeah, I mean, once things go in a certain way and you realize that, okay, making the national cut is a big deal, being a part of the national team is a big deal, and then you realize that, okay, you're amongst the best in India in order to go and represent India. So that's how you kind of...
Yeah, really put together a chronology on what a certain career path for a child would be when they are 12, 14, when they're playing in the juniors, and then how they get into state, national. Tell me, what is a point where you draw the line between persistence and reality, where someone got to figure out that that's not working in their favor? I'm sure in state you probably have hundreds of players, in national perhaps less, but equally competitive and very good players. And then of course you get to the international level, but that's a very arduous journey, right? It takes years to cross through that. For someone at that age, let's say 12 to 16, self-doubts, and the fact that whether you don't know whether you should continue, because people say that persistence is what an asset to an athlete, but also a reality, maybe you're good perhaps doing something else in life. So how does someone figure that out?
It is so tricky, right? Because you see everything around you that's like discipline, persistence, you gotta like give it your best, hard work, and that's what we hear a lot. And while everything is really good and you follow, there comes a point when you realize that I've given my best shot and I haven't got to where I've got to. But I think it's very internal. You've got to know if you've given your best shot, because there are a lot of players who would have played, quit, thinking that, okay, I'm not getting anywhere, and then gotten back into the sport because they felt like they didn't give their everything. So it's very tricky. But like for me, it was having won that nationals, which kind of decided that, okay, this is what I'm going to pursue. And also what made things easier is that you can't just pursue the sport in India especially, right? You've got to have the financial backing, you've got to have the support. And for me, at a very young age, at the age of 18, I got a job with ONGC. And that's when it was like, okay, now I can pursue badminton. Because without that, I'm not sure if I would have continued playing. It's not easy to play badminton, it's quite expensive. And you've got to have a lot of support. So having that backing also sets the tone for like, okay, I can pursue the sport fully. And I don't have to worry about the financial aspect. I don't have to worry about getting a job. But it's so tricky. It is so tricky because I feel like there's so much out there that's motivation, like these motivation videos. And sometimes it can like mislead people because it's good. It's good to like be persistent. It's good to give your best and it's good to keep working. But you've also got to realize that each of us have our own levels that we get to. And like I said, unfortunately, not everyone's going to get to the top. It's just going to be one winner, no matter how hard everyone works. So it's so tricky.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, motivation is in abundance. I think what is in scarcity is consistency and discipline. It's just so we all can see Ashwini smashing the powerful ones, Jwala doing, Saina, Sindhu, but no one is really talking, or perhaps not, it's shown what those consistency and discipline has been, right? So, and therefore that just get masked in front of people who are, getting through the aspirations of pursuing sport, that either it's just so easy, it just comes through because of certain privileges, or you are God gifted or talented, right? But none is true, right? I mean, you got to constantly keep working on it.
That is so true. One side of it is that you've got to be so persistent, so relentless, so disciplined to just like break all the barriers. On the other hand, certain things happen in your career that propels you in the right direction. So it's like a mix of everything falling to place. It's not just about hard work. I feel like everyone works hard, and if you're playing sport, any sport, you've got to work hard. It goes with the whole thing of being a sports person. You're pushed. Even if you do not want to work hard, you are pushed by the coaches. But along with the hard work comes the other aspect. How much do you want it? Because quite often kids are being forced because of external factors, but it's all about do you want it? Are you ready to go and train? Do you want to train? Because when I was training, I hated missing training. I hated it. I hated taking time off practice because I felt like I was missing out. And I'd get like really anxious. Even now, I feel like I have it in me where I'm very happy training. I feel like, okay, I'm putting in the work. I need to like learn to like back off and be like, okay, rest is equally important. But training is something that I loved. I loved the whole aspect of working. But then I've also seen my peers who've struggled with training. They're like, I want to take a break. I just want to go and like relax. But I think there's a difference in mindset there because it depends on how much you want it and striking that balance.
Yeah, I mean, while you were saying about the days when you're taking a break, you miss that. I'm kind of remembering my day when I go out for training. And my coach told me that your rest days are the most important days of your training, right? Although, a lot of athletes, even at the amateur level, I train at a very amateur level, they think that it's a rest day is perhaps an extra day, which is a waste time of them. Like you said, you have to take a pause. You have to take a break, which is good for you. But you're so passionate that now it just become an obsession, and obsessions can also backfire, right? So how do you back off?
I think sometimes your body makes you back off because you get injured. And that's like a sign that, okay, you need to like slow down. But voluntarily doing it is very hard. And I think it's hard from like an all-round perspective because everyone else around you, including the coaches, the trainers, your peers, we are in the system where breaks aren't considered good.
Yeah. They're not celebrated.
Not at all. Not at all. They don't tell you, okay, today's rest day, go and recover. Now that's come into the picture. Initially when I started, there was no break. But then the good thing was when I was studying, at least when we had exams, we had that 1 month complete break from the sport. So by the time we got back onto court, we were hungry to get back onto court. And I think that was very nice, So you have that 1 month in the month of March where you're studying and then no badminton. You have a different kind of pressure. And then you're like waiting to get back onto the court and even run. As much as all of us really disliked running because we ran so much, you didn't mind it because again, it's back to like doing something that you like that's less stressful than studying. So I think those days we don't have that break anymore. And with the way badminton is, and it has grown over the years, you don't have an off season. So basically you're training all year, playing all year. And it's up to you to decide which tournaments you want, which tournaments you don't want. And quite often, a lot of players take a break because you're injured and you're forced to. And I think at a later stage, as you get older, that's when you understand that, oh, I really need to back off. I need to take care. And yeah, it's not something that comes naturally. I don't think as a culture, we also understand slowing down because it's all about hard work. It's all about working. And the more you do that, it's like, oh, very good. She's such a hard worker, and it's celebrated. And then you're like, if you take a break or you want to rest, it's like, oh, you're slacking off training. So no one understands that taking a break also means you're giving your body time to recover and get back fresh because you also have to be mentally fresh to go back and give your best in training and at matches. Yeah. And I think finding that balance is very hard.
This is a little not so well talked or discussed topic, but I feel it's very important specifically for women and young girls who are into the sports, because girls in particular, women in particular also have this biological challenge. They go through a certain menstrual cycle and they have to take a break and they have to pause, right? And very naturally they are in low energy, right? How do you manage that time where you are low, you're low in energy, but you have to go out with a certain aggression and you have to push hard? It's a pressure game. Someone else might not be going through a certain cycle and they're playing better, and therefore you have to go and play it out. How does that work for women, particularly at elite level?
Okay, I'll go back to like when you're younger, and also like the whole aspect of the menstrual cycle. In my experience, each of us have a different experience during our menstrual cycle. It's not at all the same. And like for me, for example, I could train, I could go around, play, and I didn't really have an issue. And then when I saw my peers having issues where they had cramps or where they couldn't really get to training and they would take time off because they had really bad periods. And then I never really understood that. And I think it's so different for different women. You can't really generalize it and be like, okay, this is the menstrual cycle and this is what women go through, because it's so different. And even as women, sometimes we cannot resonate to what another woman's going through because you don't have the same symptoms. And I've realized that over the years that, because my menstrual cycles changed, my experience with my menstrual cycles changed, my approach to the games changed over the years, and then you realize that, oh, this does happen. You can cramp and it's really bad. And when I was younger, I never had it, so I never understood the concept of taking time off during your period because you're cramping, because you're not feeling good, because you have backache, and loads of other symptoms along with the menstrual cycle. I never understood it because I trained through it all because I didn't have any. And then later you realize that, oh God, it's bad, But having said that, again, each of us have had different experiences. There are girls who take time off, girls who don't. But by and large, I would say the best thing that happens to us is the fact that we're playing sport. I would say that's the best thing, because the biggest experience for me when I truly appreciated the fact that I play was during COVID. And then we weren't training because all of us were forced to take a break, right? So no, not guilty, because everyone was taking a break.
Yeah.
And then not training. And that's when I realized that there was a change in my menstrual cycle. Never had cramps. Never have I been on the bed with crazy stomachache. And then I had like a couple of other symptoms, which was so strange. And that happened only then, when I wasn't training. And that's when I realized the value of what I do without even understanding or appreciating it. The fact that I played sport nullifies a lot of the other biological changes that happen in my body, because I'm physically active. When you're playing with sport, you're using your mind and your body. It's a combination of everything. So also I felt in my personal experience that it did me a lot of good in terms of my menstrual cycle. But again, everyone's got different experience, and that's something that I've learned a lot over the years. And it's to be like very respectful about each of their experiences. And also I think I'm a lot more understanding when someone says, oh my God, I don't feel it, I can't train, because in the past I never got it. I'm like, how can you not train? It's just your period, And now I understand that it's tough, it's tricky, it's hard, it's challenging, and I think we're pretty awesome that we get to play, and especially during our menstrual cycle.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. That I'm sure would be helpful for a lot of young girls who are, again, during that phase, figuring out whether they should push themselves hard for the training day or should they back off. So appreciate you sharing that. I want to trail back on the sporting career again. You've been known as a doubles queen of badminton in India. What's the kind of a template you have to go and say that that's the partner I want to play with? You played in mixed doubles and women, so you got a very good hybrid mix of both. So how do you go about scouting the right partner?
I would say initially for me it was the coaches who scouted the partners, and when I was playing with Jwala, it was Jwala who approached me, and then that's how we started playing together. But then later in my career, I realized that, okay, I've got a certain style of play that I have, and I'm predominantly known as a good backcourt player. And I realized that if someone were to play with me, the requirements would be that they do the opposite and they're good in the opposite area, which is the net. So I realized that for me, it was my strengths, and I needed someone who filled in the weaknesses. So it was like backcourt to front court. So if I'm looking for a player, women's doubles partner, it's more someone who is good at the net, who can complement my style of playing, which is offensive from the backcourt. But mixed doubles, on the other hand, has been very different, because in mixed doubles, it's the guy who dominates the back half of the court, and it's the woman who moves into the net. And that's where I've struggled quite a bit, because especially since my game style has been predominantly a backcourt player. So my mixed doubles requirement again was I needed a guy who was good at the net and who didn't mind me running at the back, which is not something that's common in mixed doubles. Because mixed doubles, the guys are supposed to be stronger and they're supposed to take the back half of the court. So I've never had like a conventional mixed doubles style of play, unlike a lot of the other girls. So the girls who are naturally good at the net have a good understanding where they move in and let the guy cover the back. Whereas I would have an issue with letting the guy cover the back half of the court. But Over the years, I got better. I worked on my net game, and I began to trust that the guy could play better at the backcourt. And yeah, I had to change a bit of my approach for the game.
So does the coach put down a list that, look, I know your game, I know your strength and perhaps weaknesses, and therefore these are a bunch of pairing possibilities, or you pick up your choices and then put together and you figure out one or two, then you play with them and then figure out who you gel? What's that process like?
In my journey, it hasn't been like that. For me, like I said, initially my first partnership, it was the coaches who got us together, I think, when I was really young. And then my second partnership with Jwala, it was Jwala approaching me, and through like the advice of my coaches, we started playing together. But then after that, the later partnerships, it was me scouting and being like, okay, I would like to play with this player. But it's been a mix of both, but it's never been them sitting down and telling me, okay, these are your strengths, that's their strength, and together you'd make a great pair, except for, of course, when I was playing with Jwala, because she had the experience and she was a very established doubles player at that point. But it was never really sit down with the strengths and weaknesses and deciding.
But generally, in all these partners, post, let's say, Jwala, you played with, Satvik, you played with, now you Tanisha, and you played with a bunch of other people. Outside of the technical skills of playing badminton, is there any other soft skills you're also looking and filtering that, okay, that's where you think you would work out, or someone where, I don't know, maybe someone is more calm or someone is more aggressive?
I've never really looked at the soft skill aspect. It's been purely on court to see whether our game styles match. And I would say that's really important. At least it has been important for me, whereby it's like, okay, this person can complement my game style, or my game style complements theirs. And it's an understanding, like you kind of get a vague picture when you watch them play, that this person's really good in this area and I like playing the opposite and it works. But I've never really thought of the soft skills side. I think that it's always been secondary. And it's the first thing's been the on-court aspect.
Skills, yeah. How does someone know whether they're good for singles playing and double playing? How does someone make a choice?
I think you kind of know. I mean, you either have a natural knack and tendency for doubles. I've always enjoyed playing doubles ever since I was a kid. And I think singles has a lot of pleasure for me. And doubles I enjoyed. Doubles was fun for me. And back in the day when I was starting off, doubles was looked at like a fun event. It was never really considered as like a serious event. It was like, if you were lazy, if you didn't do well in singles, then you were pushed to doubles. But over the years, that's changed. Now you specialize in doubles. It's not just a fun event. It's not just that, oh, you weren't a good singles player, you moved to doubles. Now you have a lot of youngsters specializing in doubles at a very young age. And honestly, I don't know how they've made that decision. I'm guessing a lot of kids, the coaches decide and they segregate them and they're like, okay, you be a doubles player, this person's a singles player. But at that age, a lot of kids battle between like being a singles player. They don't want to move to doubles because doubles you're dependent on another player. Singles, you're purely dependent on yourself. So it's like, no, I want to play singles. Even though they have like a good inclination towards doubles, there's this battle of, no, I want to play singles because the hope is to do well in singles. But that's changed.
And the limelight is more on singles.
Yeah, it has been in the past. Things have changed over the years.
Yeah. So 2010 has been a highlight of your career. India won. You and Jwala helped India win the first gold medal in badminton in Commonwealth Games. Give me a jog back to that time. I know it's a good 14 years, but how was the prep? What was special about that entire training season? What gave you that confidence that you would be crossing each milestones and getting through the final? Before final, what was the conversations in the dressing room?
Wow, that's like a lot of questions at one go. We started playing together in 2009. So again, that was just a little over a year until the Commonwealth Games happened. And at that point, we had like a specialized coach and a specialized doubles training.
So between you and her, you just had a 1 year partnership before the games? Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So not a lot of history.
No. At that point, there was none. So, and of course, I was a nobody because I was very young and Jwala was established. Jwala and Diju were really established. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it because it was an opportunity for me to play with an established senior who was extremely well known in the circuit. And I grabbed the opportunity. I'm like, awesome, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that I give my best that I can to the partnership. And we had a good training time then because we had a couple of good months of training with Atik Johari, coach, who's from Indonesia. And he had some drills that were really nice because one of the things that I love about Indonesian coaches is that they're very technical. So we had a lot of technical training then. And the run up to the Commonwealth Games, of course, it was such a big deal. It was in India. Everyone's eyes were on the Commonwealth Games because there was so much of drama during the run up to the Commonwealth Games with the village being done and not ready and this and that. So yeah, I think for me being there, honestly, it was a very fun experience because what I remember of 2010 Commonwealth Games was just having a blast, enjoying being there from the moment we landed, going around the village, seeing all our fellow teammates from across different sports, meeting them, talking to them, going to the cafeteria where everyone ate, and everything was such a new experience that I enjoyed it. From a game point of view, it was definitely one match at a time. That we had a very tough first round, and it was very important for us to like beat the Malaysian pair we were up against. So that point, you knew that okay, if you beat that Malaysian pair, you have a good chance of doing well. So yeah, that first match was very exciting, and we got through that first match in front of our home crowd. And little by little, it was like one match at a time, one match at a time, and then we got to the finals. And it was probably one of the best moments because we played in India in front of a packed stadium.
Yeah.
And yeah, the rest is sort of history.
Of course, yeah, and thank you for everything you and Jwala did during that tournament. Since predominantly most of your career has been doubles, goal setting naturally comes good to athletes. Athletes are known for their goal setting, right? I mean, set a reasonable goal and then go and chase. But for people who are playing in doubles, and you're the first I'm talking who's playing doubles, how do you set a goal which is in sync with your partner? Because now you're not setting just for yourself, but you have to set a goal which is reasonable enough, which will help, which your partner can also aid you to get there. So you have to work in tandem with your partner. It cannot be very singular, right? So when you're doing your own goal setting, right? For example, I wanted to ask you later, but since we are talking, if playing for Paris 2024 is your goal, you have to make sure that your partner is also, in that mode, in that condition to help you get there. How is it different from someone who's playing singles?
It's very different. I think when you're a singles player, it's all on you. Everything's on you. In doubles, I feel like, again, I can only speak from my experience. So you kind of know, like I knew that Jwala aimed big, and then she was someone who was driven. But goal setting wise, the fact that he brought it up, I had my own little goals, of course, but it wasn't as a pair. But I think there were 3 goals which I did. I accomplished all 3 goals, get to the top 15 in the world, because that year we got to top 13 in the world. And then, yeah, I remember those 2 at present. And then a year later, I came across that book and I was like, oh my God, like I'd written these goals and I've actually accomplished them, which is winning the Commonwealth Games and then doing well that year internationally and getting a ranking up. And I think it was also the World Championship, doing well at the World Championship. And we'd done well in 2011.
That was 2011.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's funny because, it's not like we sat down and did it together. It was more like a personal thing that I'd written down. It's not like I've written down goals multiple times and it's not like it miraculously happened or it manifested. But yeah, it's very different. But from then to now, it's different. Like, I'm a lot older. I am playing with a youngster. So now it's like, hey, what are our goals? What are we aiming at? What are we looking at doing? And now it's more, I think being a senior partner, I would go and reach out to Tanisha and be like, hey, so that we're more in line and aligned in terms of which way we're heading. So it's different.
Does that go back and forth? Like, hey, let's aim for Olympics. we can do it, but someone on the other side would say, no, I'm just starting up my circuit, I don't want to go aggressive. Do you work that together, or as a senior partner, your job is also to inspire and aspire and build that motivation so that even if they are not dreaming big, as like you said in your case with Jwala, she was, thinking very big. So are you doing that, or are you letting, the other partner think through with their own, current temperament?
It's a mix of both. It's trying to get her to also figure out if we're on the same page, because that's very important. Both of us need to be on the same page. And I'd say the biggest aspect about being on the same page is belief in the partnership. You could dream all you want, but if you don't believe in the partnership, you're not going to get anywhere. And it's a bit of back and forth. It's also about letting Tanisha approach me, because I can't be, just because there's a huge age gap, I can't be like, oh, I'm going to be the one who's leading. It's also about giving my partner the opportunity to lead every now and then. And it's like a partnership at the end of the day.
And is it hard to be at one point a guide and very next moment be a partner? Because these are very two different characters.
Yeah, because I feel like I do not want to be a nag. I do not want to be someone who's overbearing just because I have all these experiences, My experiences are my experiences. And just because I've had those experiences, I feel like sometimes it's also important to draw that line and let my partner have her own fair share of experiences and learn from it. So I try to be less intrusive and be like, hey, you do whatever you want to do. But at times, of course, I can't help it. I mean, you just sometimes end up being like a mentor, and sometimes just saying, trying to be helpful, hopefully helpful and not really overbearing. But yeah, finding that balance between being a partner, I wouldn't want to say mentor, but you kind of end up being a mentor, I guess, because of the experience that I have and the learnings that I've had over the years. And it trickles in because you're seeing someone who's starting out, and then you see them struggling in certain aspects, and you've gone through the same thing, and you can't help but go out and reach out and be like, hey, you could approach this in this manner, or you could do this in that manner. So yeah, it's tricky. I think for me, I think a lot. So it's about, for me, I don't want to be overbearing. I don't want to come across as she calls me Didi. So it's I don't want to be like a Didi, but it's oh, I know it all, because I'm also learning. I get to learn a lot from Tanisha. But yeah, it's that striking that balance that's important.
Yeah. So 2011 and 2012 was also an eventful year. It was Olympics, London, your first Olympics. But it's also infamous for many reasons. A lot of controversy, especially for the doubles. Tell me, what was that controversy? I'm not sure how many people still remember or perhaps follow, but it would be good to have a refresher.
That was a very interesting first Olympics to have had. Because unfortunately for us in the women's doubles category, I think the whole setup was a bit not that great, because you knew. So for women's doubles, we had 4 groups. And then the mistake that was made at that point in time was you knew that if you topped a particular group, whom you'd play in the quarters. So you knew that, just say, for example, Group A, the winner, would play the second pair of Group C.
Or you're not paying everyone?
No, so this is in the quarters. So
okay.
The top 2 of each group gets to the quarters. So the problem that happened then was the winner, beforehand, before the end of the group stages, you knew that if you topped the group, you'd play just say number 2 of X group, C group. And then what happened was there's a change in order with the Danish pair having lost to the Chinese pair. So that means the Danish pair ended up being number 1 in their group, and the Chinese pair ended up being number 2. So then you knew that if you lost in your group, then you'd get the Danish pair in the quarters, or you'd get them in the semis. Strategically, from a coach's point of view, from a team point of view, you'd be if I have the option of getting a reasonably favorable draw, because it's already out, you wouldn't want to win. So just say, if you lost and you knew that you were going to play the Danish pair instead of the Chinese pair, strategically your team would be I think it's better we lose this match and go second. But the problem was everyone had the same idea in those two groups. The two groups which had issues, both pairs had the same idea. So that meant nobody wanted to win.
Yeah.
And that was where the controversy happened, because it was sad that neither pair wanted to win. And
There are almost 7-8 teams which are disqualified, right?
four.
Okay.
4 teams that
Yeah.
were disqualified. And I mean, you can't blame the players, because, I mean, again, from a strategical
They're
point
taking
of view.
benefit of the rule.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate in their case that both pairs wanted to lose. So yeah, it was.
So is that called the round robin format? Is
No,
that
now it's not there anymore.
Okay.
So now you don't know. If you
Okay.
win,
Okay.
you have no clue whom you're going to play.
Ah,
I mean,
okay.
it's an issue only if you know that, okay, this is how it's going to be. This is the template. You winner here plays the second pair here, and then this pair, winner plays this pair in the semis. If you have that template, then I think there's more room for something like this to happen. But now it's not there.
Yeah. So Jwala and you've been one of the finest pairs we have seen in the badminton history. So what was it between you guys which really worked for you guys for so many years?
I think at that point it was definitely, again, our game styles, Jwala's experience, and I think my thirst to learn and give my best. That helped us quite a bit. And I think a lot of luck, because we clicked instantly since our first tournament and things worked out. So yeah, he's grown a lot as well.
How do you manage conflict? It's very obvious on court, perhaps off court, and you've been in that space where you've played with doubles for, like we know, right, in most part of your career. So what has worked in your favor, or what is your toolkit of conflict management? Or you've been lucky that you never had any conflicts?
Oh, I've been far from lucky in this aspect. I think conflict is a key word when you're playing doubles, and it's invariable because, I mean, partnerships don't last too long, and there comes a time when you have to part ways, and it's never nice, and it's never easy, and it's never something that is done happily, but yeah, that's how doubles is, and that's the tricky aspect about playing doubles.
What's one common trait amongst all your partners you have seen which you wish you had?
A common trait.
I'm sure there's something, because they're playing to your strength, so it's something which is
Yeah,
common
of course.
between
I mean, they've all been relatively great net court players, I would say.
Yeah. So now you have Tanisha,
Yeah.
who is your partner. You guys are set for Olympics in Paris 2024. Third Olympics for you, first for Tanisha. Are you anxious because it's your third time? You're experienced?
Not anxious, far from it. I feel like being given this opportunity to go and be a part of the Olympics now, when we started off our partnership just last year,
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it. I'm happy about it, and I'm looking forward to it. It's something that I'm excited about.
So your partnership in particular really got me interesting, because when you started a year back, last January you started, right? Things were not really going your way. You guys were, 100, 140 ranking. Now you're much, probably in top 20. What's your current ranking right now?
We are 21.
Right. You are not getting through a lot of tournaments. Then you started having a winning streak. You won the Masters in Guwahati. Then things started clicking from there on, right? So what was the change both in your physical and your mental training from your start to now, where things have progressively gotten better?
I think it's the trajectory of having started off. I mean, when you start, you always start at the lowest, and then you work your way into the partnership, right? With more tournament, you get more experience, you learn a lot, and you're constantly evolving and you're constantly getting better. So I think it was us growing together as a pair. The more tournaments we played, there's a lot of learnings and takeaways from the matches that we'd lost, and getting back and working on it with our coaches. And you're constantly working. There's this never-ending process of working and getting better. And last year we played a lot of fairly smaller tournaments, and this year it's bigger. So it's definitely, we've got to up our game about getting better. But the important thing is, I think, with each tournament that we worked on our weaknesses and, constantly evolved.
So again, something we discussed earlier, the gap between persistence and knowing perhaps this is not working. When you started off, it was not working for a long time, and then suddenly it started working. During that phase, it didn't occur or it didn't strike that maybe, the partnership is not working, good for us, let's go, look for other partnerships. What caught you thinking that this will work? What was that persistence factor? Because things were not working earlier.
I mean, persistence in this context is very different. When you're starting off a partnership, you do not expect immediate results. If you do get immediate results, well and good, but it's a lot about nurturing the partnership. It takes time. You don't expect, persistence doesn't even come here because it takes time for us to get together as a partnership, to gel well on court, to get an understanding on court. It takes some time. So, even though we weren't doing well, it's not like it was easy. It wasn't. But you kind of knew that you had time to you had to give the partnership time, so that you could work your way through and evolve and keep learning. And doubles is all about combining and working on your combination on court and also building a rapport off court.
This particular what I asked you was in particular interest because, most of the audience who are watching or listening either are founders who perhaps has a co-founder or a partner, or someone at home who has a partner, or someone is trying to figure out something playing and they might have a partner. And I wanted them to even understand that it's not that everything works in a very predictable way for elites, right? You have to figure it out because perhaps there might be this notion that if you have a founder in a company what you're building, it should just work from day one and things shouldn't fall down, or you're a young couple and everything should just fall in place early on, right? So my particular interest was to understand because it was not working, it was in public. Right, whatever you guys were doing is not private, right? It's in public. So there is a lot of critiques and there's a lot of, and of course self-doubts whether this will, but then there is some inner calling perhaps that this is not even a question that we should think twice. We should just continue working on it, right? And so if that can work at an elite level, it should pretty much work for people in the everyday life.
But the key here is having realistic goals, right? It's important to have realistic goals. You can't have unrealistic goals and expect miracles to happen as soon as you start. And it's important to have realistic goals. We can't be we want to be the world champion when we just started off. First, you need to get to these little hurdles in order to see the other hurdles. You can't just look at the top of the mountain without even getting started. So I feel it's setting realistic goals is important. Being realistic with your approach is important. And when you're starting off a partnership, nobody really expects miracles. So you give it that buffer time of a few months and see how it goes. And in those few months, if you don't see any signs of it getting anywhere, then you take a call.
So how many tournaments are you playing typically in a year?
14 and above. 14 to about 20, 21.
Okay.
It depends.
So you're 34 now. You're playing with, I didn't want to put it out there in public, but it is a public news.
I know.
You're playing with players who are half your age, sometimes even younger, playing with them, against them. The fitness is super important. What is typically you're doing right now to stay in shape, stay in fit? What's typically your fitness routine right now?
My fitness routine, if someone were to actually have a look, would be shocked. They'd be like, what is she even doing? Because I don't do intense workouts. And my workouts...
Is it a conscious choice?
From my strength and conditioning coach, Declan, whom I train with, yes, which is very tailor-made to me. It's very tailor-made to my needs and it's very tailor-made to my body and how it reacts. And I think I'm a bit spoiled in that aspect because for me, the physical aspect of training for a sport is very, very subjective to each individual sport, especially in an individual sport like badminton. But having said that, I think my base level of fitness is fairly strong because when we were younger, like I'd mentioned earlier, we'd have our physical sessions from 6 to 7:30, which included loads of running. So our warm-up alone was 10 rounds of the Contiva 400-meter track. And then the workout would start. So I don't know if it's like a mixture of having like a strong physical fitness base that I can do this at this point. Right now, it's just about maintaining my body. It's about doing what's needed for my body to like last, stay injury free. And along the way, it's not like you don't have any aches and pains. So even if I do have any aches and pains, it's addressing my training based on what's happening. You know, it's not like, oh, today's leg day, have to do leg day, come what may. Tomorrow is upper body, gotta do it. So it's very like, but overall, my overall approach to fitness has changed over the years because I've trained with Declan when I was younger. And at that point in time, I felt like, oh my God, I'm not doing anything because I felt like it was really easy. It's very specific. Declan's training is super specific.
And you've stuck with him all through these years?
So I've been working with him 2016 until now.
Okay.
And then before that, I was training with him in 2013 when I'd come down to Bangalore. And at that point, obviously, I was younger, had loads of energy, and I came from this background where physical training meant you had to be killed. Like, you've got to be, like, you get off training and you're like, oh my God, I'm out. I've trained so much, I can barely stand, and you're satisfied. You're like, that's a good workout. You know, that's a good session because you can barely walk. And then it's like, okay, you've done the job. So when I went to Declan in 2013, I was like, what is this? I'm not feeling tired. I can't really understand what I'm doing. But then when I went back to Declan in 2016 was when I had a lot of issues with my body, and that's when I truly appreciated a smart approach into physical training, specific, and I could see the difference in my body. And at present, it's like blind faith. Whatever Declan says, I would do it because I see the difference in my body. So for me, physical training in the gym is 1 hour, and it's 5 days a week or sometimes 6 days a week, sometimes 3 days a week, and it entirely depends on my body, where I am at. Am I at a tournament? Do I have any injury and how I'm feeling? And it's very, very specific.
So you're a few months away from Olympics right now, right? And I'm sure you're in your peak season right now. So talk me through a typical day in training for you, right? Including, of course, now you have to do the on-court training, then the drills, and then your strength and conditioning. So what's typically a day in life of an Olympian preparing a few months out?
So for us, a typical day would just be waking up at around 6:30, 6:45, getting ready. I like going to the stadium early and doing a slow warm-up because, yeah, it makes me feel good, a good warm-up. So I'd get there by 8, 8:15, and then we warm up, do my stretches, and on-court starts at 9 to 11, and then we're done. Then there's cool down, eat, get back home, rest. There are days when I'd have another on-court session, so that would be from around 4:30 till about, just say, 6. And then I'd either gym, it depends. Sometimes I would gym after my morning session, sometimes after the evening session. But a typical day is like on-court in the morning and gym in the evening. And there are days when there's 2 on-court sessions and 1 gym.
What does typical recovery day look for you today?
That's a very good question because that's one area where I struggle a lot. I haven't paid a lot of attention to my recovery and I'm trying to change that. So my recovery is not really good in terms of what I do for recovery. I have never been a fan of ice baths, so I don't do ice baths as much as I've heard that it's really good. But for some strange reason, I feel like the hot water therapy is my go-to for recovery. I feel like it helps me recover a lot better. So hot water bags and stuff, I prefer that than ice bags. So it's very different. I don't even know if it's right or wrong. I haven't really streamlined my recovery, but I'm trying to get better, especially now that we have a couple of months until the Olympics. So trying to get some releases in and stuff like that.
So your good friend Rohan Bopanna says that ice bath is his best friend. That seems to be the only thing what he is doing for recovery. After every match, he'll just jump into a cold, plunge and just sit there for some time, and that's his go-to for recovery.
Yeah, I think it's not just Rohan; it's most elite athletes who would do that. I think the normal ones
It's
would
just
get
aversion
into
to cold
Yes,
water. Yeah.
I feel like it stiffens my body, or maybe I've never really given it a shot. But yeah, definitely prefer hot therapy. hot creams, hot patches, hot water bags. So that's my go-to.
How has been your adoption to technology as a aid to more smart training? Because you've studied in an era where technology was not as involved in sport, particularly in badminton, what it is now. So given this current time, what's been your go-to when it comes to technology? Do you have a, so to say, technology stack, wearables or apps, what you use, which helps you train better, recover better in whichever way?
Like I'm probably like the strangest athlete you've had on your show, but no, I mean, I have tried different aspects. I've tried the Whoop band. I've tried, of course, wearing the Apple Watch. And I think when you're wearing all this, you need someone monitoring it behind the scenes. You either do it yourself, you know what you're looking for, you know the parameters you need to like keep in order to like get the results you want. I haven't really had anyone look into it specifically, so I've never understood the importance of it. And like I said, my recovery has not been the best in terms of paying attention to recovery. And so far, I've gotten away with murder, I would say, in terms of looking after my body, in terms of pushing it. But I think I make up for it in terms of my physical fitness and how I train. My approach to my physical fitness is how I make up for the lack of recovery that I do otherwise. And that's kept me going. So it's not like I have a super intense on-court session followed by a super intense off-court session. Then I'd be like too tired the next day to do anything on court. So it's very balanced. Like, okay, if I've had a super tough on-court session, my off-court is balanced. So that's how I've managed. But with the wearables and stuff like that, technology, I haven't really got into it. Or maybe I haven't really been exposed to it as much. And also haven't really had the interest in it. But for me, the aspect I like is, again, I'm going back to this, but since I work with Declan, he's very particular about things, like very particular about how you do exercises. I like that side.
So the more nuanced form, the subjective feeling.
Correct. And I like the aspect of knowing you do X, Y, Z, you get this result. You know, like if I'm working on a particular thing, just say if I want to lean out, and then he puts me on a program, and it's not like it's killing me, but I'm getting the result. I'm like, wow, that is amazing, you know, because I see everyone else struggling and working super hard, but they don't really see the results. And for me, over time, I've realized that you've got to have this really smart approach. And again, to each his or her own, because different athletes have different approaches to this. But for me, since I don't really focus on the recovery aspect, this is where I kind of have an edge, I would say, because I love it. I love it, Dilip. I think you've got to be smart.
Yeah.
You've got to be smart with the way you train, because no matter how good you are, if you don't look after your body, you're going to get into trouble. So yeah, the scientific side through Declan, I take it in. The variable sides, I haven't.
I'm going to trade, perhaps the only area where I can trade notes is variables. I have a ton, I have a Whoop, I have a ring.
Oh, you have everything.
So maybe there are a few notes I can trade with you once we are done with this. But tell me, since you're playing 14 to 20 tournaments, is there a concept of off-season really? I mean, in a sporting calendar year, do you have a concept of off-season?
Not really, unless and until you take the break yourself. So you've got this packed calendar with multiple tournaments. So you've got to sit with your coach and decide that, okay, these are the couple of weeks we're going to train, if that means we're foregoing XYZ tournament. And it's not easy, especially like the last 1 year during the race to Paris, the Olympic qualifying year. It's been pretty hectic because everyone's trying to gain points. Everyone's playing as many tournaments. So it was like a crazy race. So you don't really have time. And of course, if you're in the top 10, top 5 in the world, you have the luxury of choosing because you're playing the best, you're winning big tournaments, and then you can back off from the smaller tournaments. But if you're not doing that, that means you're playing a lot of tournaments, trying to get those wins, trying to get as many points. And so when we're playing so many tournaments, it's about balancing out everything. So you're doing your training on the go. And again, balancing that out is so tricky. But yeah, I've been lucky that way.
Yeah, so one interesting bit, which I don't know if many people know about you, and when I was trying to read up, is that at one point of time you set up a world record for the fastest smash,
Supposedly.
right? 2010. So you're known for your powerful smashes. Do you work now knowing that that's your strength, in particular in your training to get that better in terms of your power and strength, or is just natural to you and you just keep it how as it is?
It's been natural to me. It's not like I did anything specific to like gain that
Did you always
power.
wanted to have a world record?
Never even crossed my mind. And I don't even know if that's a record. I heard it, yes, but I never physically saw it.
Yeah, I mean, online record says that 2010 you had set a world record.
Yeah.
I'm guessing now perhaps someone else has taken over, but
Yeah.
you could claim that one point of time you had a world record.
I guess I could do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely have a hard smash and I've always had power. So even the couple of times when I've like dabbled in hockey here and there, I can never play soft touches. It's just take the stick and just whack it as hard as I can. Like it's always power, everything I do. So I think it's a very natural instinct for me to like use a lot of power in a lot of things I do. And the soft touches is where I really need to work in terms of like trying to dribble better or trying to drop. Those are areas I need to work much more than the average person.
Is that why you say you're more comfortable and better in back of the court?
Yes.
Because then you can get your smashes done.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Very important topic which is also underrated is nutrition. What's your relationship been with food? How do you look at food today, from a performance, from a recovery point of view? What's it like?
Again, Dilip, like I'm a strange athlete.
Yeah, I'm asking all the wrong questions to the most elite athlete we've got to the country.
Yeah,
People
but
are expecting you to give a lot of nuanced
I
technical answers, and you are saying that I just go with the flow. I have no perfect thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in awe of all the athletes who follow a strict diet. I've been in awe of everyone being really disciplined about what they eat, and I think it's so hard to answer this because, like, I'm not someone whom you can be like, hey, follow what she does. But I think in one aspect where I'm fairly good is doing things in moderation. You know, it's not like I'd go overboard. Everyone's got cheat days, but my cheat days can be any day. It's not like I'd say no to a chocolate. But at the same time, like the difference where I'm at right now compared to the past, I think in the past I would eat just about anything. A lot more mindful now. I do like the healthier option of things, healthier side, choosing the healthier dish. But it's not been very structured. It's not been a
So
structured.
there's no nutritionist who's putting together a plan for you, because now you are roaring for Olympics, so you have to be under a certain weight. What is good for your performance? Nothing of that sort.
Like I've managed my weight with managing what I eat, like balancing it out. It's literally been a balancing game. But I mean, I worked with nutritionists as well. And they've all also balanced my eating as like it's fairly okay, because it's not like I eat absolute junk and it's not like I go overboard. So it's all been in moderation. And with that moderation, my body has been able to like find a balance here and there, I guess. But the difference is as time's gone by, I can't get away with a lot of things that I did when I was younger. So it's definitely a lot more mindful right now. But it's more like, as much as I've worked with nutritionists, it's never been a very strict diet of like, know this, have to eat this. It's never been like that. It's never been have supplements, because I've always had an aversion to supplements. So I'm like very scared. It's like, oh, like what if, you know, like dope test and be really careful with what I have, and even tablets and stuff. I'm very, very skeptical about it. But when it comes to nutrition, I think home food is the best food. But over the years, of course, Swiggy's come in and it's changed everything. But again, I think it's finding the right option, because you have a lot of healthy options and it's finding that right option there. But yeah, over the years, things have changed a lot, because, I mean, at the national camp, we also have an outlet where and so I think it's individual needs. So again, it's so tricky, because I feel like over the years I've realized that there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
There's not one aspect that you can say that this is the way. You've got to dabble in different things. You've got to see what works for your body. You've got to see if it's going to help you. If it helps you, great. If not, you've got to be ready to make the changes needed in order for you to get the best out of your body. So being a lot more mindful like that.
loop is coming by your own experience.
Yes.
You're someone, you said in the beginning, at the age of 12, you had a coach. So today, what does mental health mean to you?
For me, at that point when I started playing again, it was me struggling to play, struggling to enjoy playing, my parents having to also understand the needs of their child. So it was through the NLP coach Ashlesh who was like the bridge in between, listening to me and then also giving feedback to my parents and all of us growing together. But now mental health is different. It is so different because the best thing is it's not a bad thing to go to a therapist. It's not a bad thing to say that you need help. And I think that's the first step because, if you have a physical ailment, an injury, you can treat it because it's visible. You're accepting of it because it's visible. Mental help, you're looked down upon. If you say that you need help or you're struggling, people look down upon you or used to. It's not any. And as a sports person, again, it's a lot about building that self-belief and learning to deal with stress. It's learning to deal with expectations. And sometimes your coaches don't get it.
Yeah.
Because they're also the source of that stress and that expectation and that pressure. So you go to them and you can't talk to a coach about this. So you do need someone to come in and listen to you and just give you that ear to hear what you're saying and give you that feedback that it's okay, it's natural. It's natural to have these thoughts and give you a way to deal with it.
Knowing that there is a lot of vulnerabilities in everyone's life, whether you're elite or not, is very reassuring for someone who's trying to have their own struggles and battles in whatever capacity, because even the best of the best are struggling and everyone would have their own intensity in some way. That's very reassuring. And the reason why I'm more particular to ask you was to also ask, what's your current toolkit then? Because you have a toolkit for your physical strength, you have your toolkit for how to play on the court. When you're moving around for competitions and you're facing through those challenges, what's your current toolkit which you open up and fix for your situations?
I think for me, I have a team. So for me, I work with a coach online. His name is Paul, so Paul Stewart. So I work with him online. He's a badminton coach, and I work with him in terms of the game. But I think the aspect he helps me the most is from the mental side of it, having someone to speak to, having someone to talk about the different things that happen, because in every sports person's journey, there are loads of things that happen. And you can't really share it with everyone else. So I've been fortunate that I've had Paul, who's been working with me, and he incidentally helped me in 2020 when COVID started. And that's when the two of us started working. And so we did a lot of online on-court work where we're looking at matches and having a different approach to the game. But he also helped me put to rest a lot of things that were there on my mind and I was struggling with at that point in time. And that was taking a huge weight off my shoulders. Probably one of the reasons why I've also been able to play so long, because I had a lot of baggage that I was carrying and it was very difficult. But I'm not going to get into it. But he helped me out quite a bit in that aspect. I go to different people, but I've been fortunate enough to have different approaches to different issues, and the fact that I could go to them. So I'm always someone who's pretty expressive with people I'm close to, and to have my mom to go and vent out to is very reassuring because she gives me a lot of reassuring feedback. She's positive. And then having my husband to go and offload a lot of things to, he's got a different approach to things. So my mom, my brother and Karan have different approaches to different issues in my life, but I accordingly go to different people. So I've been fortunate that way, and I think having someone you can trust to go and share things with is so important, and that helps you deal with a lot of things.
So 18 years of playing the sport, have you ever thought of quitting, stopping?
Multiple times. Multiple times. I've thought about quitting. I've thought, like, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm done with the sport. I can't take it anymore. But that's where this enormous support system comes into play. Like at the toughest and my lowest moments, it's definitely been my mum, it's been Karan, it's been my brother, it's been my dad, it's been my friends who've just kept that spark burning and kept me going. Because there have been times where I've been like, I can't do this anymore, and they're like, just push it. Just push it. You can just hang in there. It'll get better. Just hang in there. And I'm really grateful for that because, I mean, not everyone is fortunate enough to have that support system.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed that way to have like these awesome people in my life who've been very supportive. And I mean, I value my friends and family a lot. Like my time with them is the most precious thing. And to have like a very supportive system is important, especially being in a very competitive sport where it's very cutthroat, and it's hard, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Tell me how much of this, or perhaps, I don't know if at all there's a parallel. Badminton is a very fast game. Unlike any other sport, you don't have a lot of gap in between to think and react. It's very tactical, it's very quick. So in those pressure moments when you are having a rally, how do you react when when either your pins are down and you don't know how to do next, or the rally is going and you don't know whether you have to go defensive or offensive? How much of off-court mental training is helping you in the on-court side of it, or these are two different aspects of mental training?
No, it helps a lot because, I mean, when I speak to Paul, it's also about dealing with these various scenarios on court.
So you have simulations?
Not simulations, we talk about situations, or when you're watching a match or we're reviewing a match, and then it's like, hey, this is how I felt, and it's about what are we going to do again next time you're in that situation. But as much as you prepare for it and you like work on it, at times you get carried away with the moment, and like you tend to like relapse into that same mindset. But quite often you kind of overcome it and you're like, okay, cool. I mean, we've spoken about it, or you deal with it. And I think it's also a lot to do with how present you are at that moment when you're playing on court, which is very important.
So you played with many coaches who've been your guide. And in the past, you have said you love working with coaches who turn negatives into positive. What does that mean?
Oh my God, I love coaches who turn negatives into positives because I'm pretty hard on myself. Always have been. It's like, I think it's this growing up being told that take responsibility for what happens in your life. So that means that even on court, if there's something wrong, I've always found solace in the fact that I can be like, oh, I made a mistake. I'd be the first one to point out to myself and be like, oh, I did this wrong, It was pretty negative. But I remember training with a Yusuf coach, an Indonesian coach, and I was so down because I was making so many mistakes when I was doing a training drill. And rather than getting angry with me and being like, how can you make so many mistakes? He turned around and highlighted that one positive thing, which was like so bizarre to me because it was very alien. Nobody does that. Nobody highlights that positive. And if anything, they'll feed into your negativity and be like, oh yes, you're doing a really bad job. But then little by little, as I worked with him, I realized that my approach to the training started changing. Like the way I was playing shots started changing because it was more positive. The negativity was going away and I started just enjoying it, and I understood it was so powerful. It was really powerful because those days were some of my best training days where I like truly believed in myself. And I mean, I was so confident. And it's funny how like confidence comes in the smallest ways. It trickles in and you like feed into someone and then you can improve their confidence. At the same time, you can zap a person's confidence by being really negative, And I feel like sometimes coaches don't get that. People around you don't get that. Yeah. Negativity, you're being negative with the mindset that you want to build a person up. It's got an adverse effect. Negativity kind of stems more negativity, just feeds into more negativity.
Tell me, at your level right now, you have coaches, the best of the coaches, international or national. There's a federation. What is that you could tell kids who are perhaps pursuing a career. There are plenty of coaches also out there. So what should a parent or a kid keep in their checklist when they're trying to hire or look for a suitable coach?
Again, it depends on how old the child is. If a child is just starting off, I think the first step is to get that child interested in the game. A good place to start would be having a coach who is technically sound, who knows the technical aspects of the game and can help in terms of getting the right grip and technique in. I would say that's a big plus if you have a coach like that. But then it depends on different phases in your career as a child grows. I mean, if a player is at a stage where they can make decisions on their own, you've got to give coaches a chance too. You can't just jump from one coach to another just because there are so many coaches out there. You've got to give coaches a chance too, and you've got to build that relationship. But it's hard at this point in time because far too many coaches, far too many children, there's a lot of everything happening. But I think it's important to if you can find a balance to work with your coach, that'll be good.
So in the past, you've said, in India, singles gets much more limelight, much more attention, doubles was not getting. Is this still true or has things changed a lot?
It has changed a lot. Definitely changed a lot from when I started out.
But is it at par to what singles is getting attention?
I mean, it's changed. I would say the overall badminton structure and the way badminton is today has changed because our current world number one is Satvik and Chirag. They're the men's doubles players and they've been in the top for weeks now. And they've done phenomenally well. But then, had they been singles players, I would say it would have been different. The way things would have viewed. I think things should be a lot bigger right now because they've done so well. I still don't see it as big as it should be. Being world number one is no joke. Having won the tournaments they won the Asian Games, it's no joke. They're big deals, You've got to be out there and highlight that. And as much as it's a lot better now, I still don't think it's enough. I feel like had it been a singles player, it would have probably been in a different place, a different level altogether.
So recently you said that we have a good chance of changing the colors in the current Olympics. Why do you think we have a good chance this year?
I think the fact that we've had our players perform really well the last couple of tournaments, it kind of goes in line with that, okay, you are not just going to compete, but you're going to, as a contender, to win a medal. But having said that, it also means that everyone else's eyes are going to be on you. If you're a contender to go and win a medal, then everyone's going to be learning about your game, seeing your strengths and weaknesses. They're going to study you through and through, and everyone's going to come after you. So it's as much as you're going as a contender to win and change that color of the medal, it's also super hard because everyone else is also going to be looking at you as the main target and the main opposition for them. So yeah, I feel like we're having a world number one, having a two-time Olympic medalist, these are things that okay, who they are. So it's tricky, but at the same time, you're also sending a team which is okay, that you can expect them to do really well because they have done well in the past. And they're going in, according to the past records, they have this good trajectory where they're doing well. So you kind of expect them to do well.
What more can be done in India today to get badminton to a high level as compared to other sports? We have to accept there are a few sports which are extremely dominant even today. But to take badminton, maybe at not an equal level, but even a better level, what more can be done today?
If you're comparing badminton to cricket, you can't compare the sport. Cricket is different. I don't even consider it a regular sport.
But let's say from a reasonably, I'm sure you are talking to federations, you're talking to sponsors.
It's different.
What can we do in the very near future where, we have so much, like you said, we have so many academies, we have so many more players what we had 5 years back. What can we do now to perhaps get more medals or get more quality players in badminton?
I feel like as much as we have loads of academies coming up, loads of badminton courts propping up, loads of kids getting into the sport, you've got to streamline and structurize things. You've got to structurize the training that everyone's doing. You've got to there's got to be a format where everyone's got access to high quality training. maybe have like more coaches working together, more coaching clinics for all the coaches. So everyone's got like an idea as to what it takes to make sure that they can get their players on top. Right now, everyone's doing their own thing from their experience or what they've learned and how they've grown up. And it's not standardized. And I feel like it's all got to feed into the bigger picture. Like you have all these academies filtered in and get to the point where everyone gets together to form the national camp. So I feel like there's got to be a structure, like a pyramid system where everyone can work together. Right now, it's just like open. One out of one of this academy may do well, may not do well. They're all just happy just playing. So it's very different. So definitely structurize everything and have like a format in which, like you have tests where you do these scores and then you pass. Apart from just playing the All India tournaments, I feel like it's good to get all the kids to get good access to high quality training.
Does it still, do you talk between your peers, or is it a conversation that maybe cricket has so much of fame and attention and money? It's not there in this sport, although, we had players, Satwik and Chirag, world number one. World number one is a huge deal, like you said. But perhaps this sport still doesn't get that much of money or attention. Does it hurt players?
I feel like it did when I was younger and I didn't know better. But now when I look back, I would say the Cricket Association's done a phenomenal job to get the sport to where it is in terms of marketing, in terms of the overall push of not just men's cricket, but even women's cricket now is doing really well. And they've brought about that change. And I would say it's like a collective effort. And it starts from the association. And they've done a great job. But I feel like the tricky thing with a lot of the other sports is everyone's got to grow together, but everyone's it's a very individual approach. And I think cricket, on the other hand, is a team sport, so I guess everything is a little more different. But honestly, you cannot compare the other sports to cricket. Honestly, I think you should compare the associations.
Yeah.
Like all the associations could be on the same, and it would be great if all the other associations could learn from the Cricket Association and how they've brought the sport up. But having said that, I would say badminton is definitely in the top in terms of sports, and I'd say our association has done a great job so far in like.
It's the second most played sport today after cricket in India.
Yeah, so I would just definitely say the structure in terms of how the game's been portrayed and the fact that the likes of Saina, Sindhu, and everyone else they've propelled the sport. Having Olympic medals in badminton's also propelled the sport out there and to the top. But yeah, there's so much more that can be done, especially with the number of kids playing the sport. I feel like our sport could be, in competing with the likes of Japan, which has got like so many pairs, so many players coming up. I'm not too sure what their secret is, but I feel like for me personally, I would think it's more to do with like getting a uniform training, because when I look at the Japanese players play, everyone plays the same. Like they've all got brilliant defense, same attack. Like it's like there's a uniformity, even though they seem to come from like different places. But yeah, I think a more structurized training should help. And of course, everyone's got to collectively work.
The last few things which I wanted to ask was you in more from a utility point of view, that most of the people who listen and watch are enthusiasts of optimizing their life for performance in whatever kind. It could be either at work, or maybe if they're playing a sport, or just in life. What is that people can pick from you and from your experience?
I think having that hunger to learn is really important. Irrespective of how old you are, there's no end to learning, there's no end to growing. Being it in sport, being it in other fields of life, being it starting something new at a later stage in life. But having that hunger to learn is really important, and I think that would take you a long way, because learning means you have that, there's no end to learning, and there's no end to getting better, there's no end to improving, and you can always upskill yourself. And currently, with the way the world is, you can learn whatever you want, wherever you want, just sitting at home, because everything is online. So if you have and everyone's got access to internet and a smartphone. A lot of people do, not everyone, a lot of people do. And if you do have that access, I would say that you could make use of your time to learn and upskill yourself and pursue your passions, because it could either be your profession or it could also be a hobby, but just enjoy it and keep learning.
One piece of advice for a young kid who's watching or listening, or the parent made them watch or listen this because Ashwini Ponnppa is talking about it. What is that you would tell them if they are thinking about pursuing badminton as a career option? What is that one thing they should not do, and what is that one thing perhaps they should do right now to perhaps have a better career prospect?
I think for youngsters between the age of just say 12 to like 19 and a little older, because they're still following, is to trust the process, trust your coaches, put in the work, don't question it too much, because at this point it's good to like just put in the work and focus on the basics, I would say, quite a bit, because the basics go a long way, especially if you want to excel in the sport. Your basic training right now, as boring as it is, it'll take you forward in your future.
Yeah. I asked online, I'm going to talk to you, and few people, common questions between all of them was, do we get to see Ashwini in 2028 LA Olympics?
Oh my God, that's like very far away, but right now I'm
But
extremely
is that
focused.
in the horizon somewhere that...
I mean, Paris just got into my horizon, so it's definitely going to be Paris right now. And yeah,
That's not thinking big, right? That's thinking too much of thinking LA before even Paris.
I feel like that's thinking about hurdles way ahead, even before crossing the ones in front of me. So yeah, definitely the first hurdle for me would be Paris, and then taking a call.
Yeah, no, it's been super pleasure, Ashwini. Thank you for taking this time or having this conversation. I really hope people got some cues to work on themselves and work on their other aspects of their other side, which could, take them in whatever they want to do in their life. Before we wrap up, a few quick things. I know this would come very easy, but I just want you to pick up. I'll throw you two options. Just pick up, right? Roger Federer or Rohan Bopanna?
Okay, Rohan Bopanna.
Coorg or Bangalore?
Coorg.
Olympic winner or world champion?
Olympic. I mean, it's a hard one, but I'd go with Olympic medalist winner.
No, it's just a perfect way to end. Then you are set to once again go and represent India in Paris. So good luck to you. So thank you once again, Ashwini, for taking time and having this conversation. And I hope to see you sometime soon again post Paris.
Thank you, Dilip. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure being here. And I hope I didn't overspeak and bore you, but thank you. It's been fun.
No, thank you, Ashwini. So, so that was Ashwini Ponnappa. I'm sure you might have enjoyed this conversation. It was a long one, but there was a lot of things for you to take away. Share it with your friends, family, anyone you think would find this useful and would help them in their career, not necessarily sports, but anything in life, what they're doing. Send your wishes to Ashwini. She's on social media. We'll share her links so that she get all the good wishes. She needs that a lot. She's going for her third Olympics, so cheer for her. Thank you once again for tuning in all this long. Would love to have your feedback. Send me your messages. Would help me get better in whatever I do. We'll see you next time with another guest. Goodbye.